Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I'd like to begin by also thanking our dear friend Cemalnur Sargut and all the beautiful friends of Turkad and the Çelebi family and the International Rumi Foundation and all the speakers and friends who've gathered here to bring us all into the presence of Hazreti Şems, Hazreti Mevlana. It's so beautiful to be held within their huzur here in Konya. We begin in the name of God, the infinitely compassionate and infinitely merciful, and we ask his help. As it says in the beginning of the Makalat, this talk was gathered from the words of the beloved Mevlana Şems'in Tebrizli, the Sultan of those who have attained. May God not deprive us of his abundant blessings. We're deeply grateful for this opportunity that we've had to spend in the time of companionship with Hazreti Şems during the journey of preparing the book Rumi's Son, The Teachings of Şems-i Tabriz, selections from his Makalat, and the generosity of Dr. Refik Algan, whose inspiration it was to begin a translation of the Makalat into English. One of the gifts of that journey has been to feel Şems's constant encouragement of those to whom he speaks to become people of paradise, here, now. So in this moment, we wish to share with you some of that encouragement. We're living in the midst of very challenging times, and Mevlana and Şems also lived in the midst of very challenging times. And yet, what a possibility opened with the example of being that they unveiled. They invite us into the garden of seeing God's beauty and abundance everywhere, in the midst of everything, seeing the unity and encouraging souls to be people of paradise, now, here. In the Makalat, the conversations of Şems-i Tabriz, Şems tells us, people say that there is no path or that the path is very long. Yes, the way is long, but once one sets out to walk with great exuberance and joy, the distance of the way disappears. Just as it was said, paradise is surrounded by thorns, by things we dislike. All around the garden of paradise are thorns, but when the fragrance of paradise reaches the nose of the lover, bringing news of the beloved to the lover, then that place of thorns becomes very pleasant. The thorns that surround hell always seem to be roses and basil, but the unpleasant odor of fire comes to us from them. If I were to try to explain about the beauty of this path, it wouldn't be appropriate. In this world, the opposites play out their dance of light and dark, of difficulty and ease. And in the midst of it, we have the work of being rightful caretakers, Halifa, of the divine. Here, acting as servants, Abdullah, to establish the mizan, the balance and good measure in this world. Şems encourages us to open the heart to its true capacity. He says the heart is greater, more expansive, more pleasant and more illumined than the heavens. Why would one narrow it with useless words? How could it be appropriate to constrict a very pleasant universe into a tight prison? What is the purpose of turning a universe like a fruitful garden into a tight prison, wasting time with delusions and ugly imaginings throwing oneself into a dark universe and sleeping in ignorance all the time, wrapped up in a cocoon like a silkworm. We are of the people who turn the prison into a fruitful garden. If our prison turns into a fruitful garden, imagine what our fruitful garden might become. Just watch and see. None of the gracious words of the prophet have surprised me. Only one hadith has bewildered me, he said. The world is the prison of the believer. I don't see the world as a prison. Where's the prison? I'm asking. But that blessed one said, the prison of the believers. He didn't say the prison of the servants. The servants are a different community. One doesn't have to fit one's own meaning into that narrow thought. Whatever comes from the friend, quickly say, it's just like that, and keep going. As Shams says, strive to do the good. They tell a story about Ali, may God be pleased with him. He had said, we were in the Baqi cemetery offering the funeral salat. The Prophet came to us and said, there's no man or woman for whom God has not written whether he or she will go to paradise or hell. One of those there asked, I wonder, can we change this destiny? He said, endeavor, do good deeds. Each human being facilitates the work for which he or she is created. People created for paradise make easier the deeds of the people of paradise. And those who were created for hell make easier the work of the people of hell. After this, the Prophet recited the following verses from Surah Layl. And so, as for one who gives to others and is conscious of God and believes in the truth of the ultimate good, for him we shall make easy the path towards ultimate ease. To clarify, Shams says, let me tell you about the qualities of the people of paradise, and let me also tell you the signs of the people of hell. Since the day God created the universe, like an arrow shot from a bow, every day, every moment, he has been opening and closing doors. This takes place at such a limitless speed that one's mind stops. Whomever you see who has a beautiful temperament and a beautiful face, if his or her words are straightforward, if he or she is open-hearted, and he prays for good things for everyone, a joy of heart comes from the speech of such a person. He or she makes you forget the anxieties and tightness of this universe. Your inside opens in such a way that even if he or she swears at you, you laugh. Maybe when they speak of unity, you weep. But in that moment, you feel 100,000 joys and laughter within you. Such a person is a being of paradise. There are also those who bring a coldness and anxiety to you, and these are those of hell. Now, whoever has realized such a secret behaves accordingly. In this endeavor, Shams encourages us to bring our helplessness, our incapacity, our need to our sustainer. For need is the foremost wing feather of the way. He says, if you pass beyond the body and reach the soul, you'll have reached createdness. The truth is the ancient eternal being. Where can the one who is created find the one who is eternal? What connects the earthly creature with the Lord of Lords? In your opinion, that by means of which you move and attain liberation is the soul, then what use is it to put the soul in your hand, ready to give it away? even if lovers bring you their own heads, the gift of their life, they will have only brought cumin seed to Kirman, the source of all cumin. What is it worth to bring cumin to Kirman? What renown will it bring? What price will it fetch? There is a palace where he is without need. So take your need there, because the one without need loves need. And due to that need, you may suddenly leap out of these created affairs. Something from the Eternal One is connected to you. It is love. The ambush of love comes and embraces you, just as it says in the Quran, he loves them. They love him, is the effect of God loves them. Then you will see the ancient Eternal One through the ancient Eternal One, because he perceives all vision. This is the entirety of the words that do not end and will not end until the day of resurrection. Shams reminds us of the Hadith Qudsi. La ilaha illallah, there is no God but God is my fortress. Whoever takes refuge in my fortress becomes secure. He says, whoever goes into this fortress of oneness, he didn't say, whoever only says the name of the fortress. To say the name is easy. You may say, I've entered the fortress or I've gone to Damascus. But if it were just a matter of the tongue, in an instant you could ascend from earth to the heavens or to the empyrean and the throne. The Prophet Muhammad said, the faithful one who says, La ilaha illallah, with purity and from the heart goes to paradise. Now you sit and say he is one, but who are you? You're more than 6,000. Become one. Otherwise, is his oneness your concern? You're 100,000 particles, and each particle of yours is being carried off by some desire. Within each particle of yours there is an illusion. The one who demonstrates purity of intention and sincerity of action goes to paradise. And then there's no need for a promise, such as if he or she has been able to do this, he or she enters paradise. For if he or she has been able to do this, he or she is paradise itself. One of the ways in which Shams encourages us to be people of paradise is through being watchful of our speech. He says, if you're in the midst of praising someone, what business do you have with speaking ill of someone? Suppose your mouth is full of sugar. Why would you put vinegar into it? If your mouth is full of vinegar, it's no shame for you not to do the salat. Why would it be, since it's the place of the purified? If you're really occupied with remembering God, with praising God, absorbed in that sweetness, how could you speak ill of someone else and destroy that sweetness with vinegar? He reminds us that, as Imam Ali said, the tongue is a treasure, but also an endless disease. And to be careful that we do not say that which we do not do. Not to seek knowledge for the sake of a worldly morsel, but to bind ourselves to these questions. Who am I, and what is my essence? Why have I come here, and where am I going? Where am I rooted? What am I involved in right now, and towards what should I turn my face? He reminds us of a passage in the Quran. The angels and the Spirit rise up to him in a day whose measure is 50,000 years. He tells us not to be caught with the outer meanings, not to keep imagining where is the universe of the prophets or the universe of the saints. He says, then you'll get dizzy, lose your balance and fall down. Just start walking with them. And reminds us of the hadith, he who comes to me by an arm span, I come to him by a cubit. And he who comes to me walking, I come running to him. Seek the heart, he says. Where is the place of the heart? It is hidden. But the moment the bright light of the truth reflects upon the heart becomes joyful. Then in a moment that light disappears, but many times it happens like this, so that the heart might become a heart. It burns, and many times the heart gets broken until it melts, and only God remains. As Mevlana says, love is the astrolabe of the divine mysteries, and often it is through difficulty that love is deepened. Shams tells the story of Layla and Majnun. He mentions how Harun al-Rashid, the famous Abbasid emperor, said one day, "Bring Layla to me, that I might see her just once." Majnun has fallen into total difficulty because of his love for her. And from east to west, lovers have made the story of their love their mirror. After spending lots of money and many sly ruses, they managed to bring Layla. They placed her into a secluded room in the palace of the Caliph Harun al-Rashid. In the evening, the Caliph came to that room. Candles had been lit. He looked carefully at Layla for some time. Then for some time he sat with his head bowed. Finally he said to himself, "Let me make her speak. Perhaps she becomes more beautiful when she speaks." He turned his face to Layla and asked, "Are you Layla?" "Yes, I am Layla, but you are not Majnun. The eyes that are in Majnun's head are not in yours. How can you see Layla with an eye with which you look at others, unless you wash it clear with your tears? Look at me with the eye of Majnun. One should look at the beloved with a loving eye, because he loves them. But the problem is that they don't look at God with a loving eye. They look at God with the eye of knowledge, or from the viewpoint of gnosis or philosophy. But to look with the eye of love is another work altogether. The human being remembers often the one whom he or she loves, especially if that beloved is God. But who is able to remember him as he deserves to be remembered? We are remembering you all the time. We are filled with your love. Shams tells us, "I wish people knew that happiness is in the gathering of friends, that they might mingle with each other and show their beautiful faces, so that love might appear among them. When one by one desires come between them, their brightness vanishes. If you keep something within honey, it remains fresh and sweet. The air cannot find a way into it to spoil it. He says to some people, my words seem bitter, but if they endure that bitterness, a sweetness comes to them. One who smiles during the time of bitterness smiles because his eyes are seeing the sweetness that will come in the end. And so, according to this point of view, patience means to witness the end result of an action, and impatience means to be so short-sighted as to not be able to see the outcome. With a humorous story, he encourages us to patiently persevere. He tells us how once there was a rope dancer who would walk on the rope with eyes blindfolded, with wooden clogs on his feet, a water jug on his head, holding 4 things in his hands. He would walk forward on the rope, making creaking sounds with his feet, return again, suddenly throw himself down, hold the rope with his feet and under his armpits, then hang himself by a single finger, and then jump back up onto the rope again. Meanwhile, his heavier friend kept falling. All the time he was on the rope, his friend would keep shouting at him, "I've brought you here in the name of such and such a teacher." And he would begin to weep. Then quickly, people would gather up sticks and blankets and offer loads of advice. They practice tightrope walking at the seaside, so that if they fall off the rope, they fall into the water. In this way, after long practice, they become master tightrope walkers, and after that, they practice on land. Gradually, they raise their rope and learn about the best ways to stand and walk on it, just as patience is needed for the crescent moon to become full, for the rain on the rocks to turn them into rubies, and for the drops that rain onto the sea to become pearls. These two would slowly become expert tightrope walkers with patience and practice. With time, from unripe grapes, you can make halva. From time to time, he says, ask us, how are you? I am your servant, he says. And day and night, I'm occupied with praying for you. In the process of learning how to be true servants, Shams encourages us to keep good companionship, to open to the presence of the prophets, to zikr the prophets. He says, everyone speaks about his peer. In a dream, the blessed prophet gave a hirka to me, a cloak to me, but not one of those cloaks that would become old after only 2 days and fall to pieces to be thrown into the furnace or to be used for dishcloths. Rather, it's a cloak of companionship and conversation. Not a companionship with any limits, but a companionship that has no yesterday, today, or tomorrow. What does love have to do with yesterday, today, or tomorrow? He says there's no doubt you take on the nature of the one with whom you sit, the one with whom you're closely in contact. If you spend time looking at straw, dryness constricts you. If you look at greenery and roses, freshness opens within you. Your companionship pulls you to his or her own universe. This is why reading the Quran purifies the heart. You remember the prophet's words and their states. Their forms unite with your spirit. They become your comrades and sit with you. By means of that great, immortal, and infinite jewel, I gained such a warm, high knowledge, I merged with it and became filled with its fire. He tells us the spirits of the great attained ones are ready. They recognize the living ones and help them. And he says, even if the whole world would hang me by my beard, still if something needs to be said, I will say it. And without a doubt, even after 1,000 years or 800, these words will be heard by those whom I want to hear. A few people became the prophet's scribes for the revelation, those who wrote down the divine commands. And a few people became the place where the revelation descends, the place of its effect. Work hard so that you may be both. In other words, be both the object of the revelation and the scribe of the revelation that comes to the heart. Oh, my graceful friend, what more can we say? May God be with you, Şems says. But this is not a wish for separation, but a prayer that the favor and help of God and the friendship of the Master and the truth, who knows the secrets, might protect you. Stop, O my camel. Joy has come to its last degree. The work is finished. The way has come to an end. The earth has turned into a beautiful paradise. The time of celebration has come again, and things have been set right. Şems tells us that Mevlana would say to him, if you are silent, your speech becomes brighter, because both the light of silence and the value of speech are hidden within silence. So for a few moments, I'd like to invite us into silence with Şems, into the heart, and then to seal this offering with a few words from the Quran. In the name of God, the infinitely compassionate and infinitely merciful, consider time. Truly, human beings are in loss. Accept those who have faith and do the deeds of wholeness and reconciliation, and encourage each other in truth, and encourage each other in patient perseverance. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr. Inal insani lafi khusr. Illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqqi wa tawasaw bis sabr. Sadakallahu al-azim. Aşk olsun.